Don't you love when at the end of the school year your teacher brings in treats? How about donuts? Welcome back to Knowledge Over Grades. I'm your math coach, Latrell Jackson, and today in Word Problem Wednesday, we're going to be doing a word problem on donuts. Let's go. Okay, guys, so we are on Word Problem Wednesday number 5. And if you would like to look at any of the other Word Problem Wednesdays, I encourage you to do so. They are in the Word Problem Wednesday playlist on the Knowledge Over Grades YouTube channel. So we're talking about donuts. Don't these donuts look delicious? Make you want to go get one. And let's get started. So when we're solving a word problem, we want to follow the 3-step word problem solving process. I have written a blog post on this on my blog, which I'll link in the description of this video. And these are the steps. Step 1 is RRTR, which will help us with reading comprehension. I'll get more into that as we move along. Step 4 is a 4-part scavenger hunt. Step 3 is solve with strategy and purpose. Okay, so let's start with step 1, RRTR. What does that mean? Well, 1 is read, 2, reread, 3, think about it, and 4, rewrite. Okay? We want to do all those things so that we can really understand what the question is asking us. So here's the question. At the end of the school year, all the math teachers brought in 312 donuts for their classes. If Miss Jackson brought 96 donuts for her 3 math classes, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? So before we read it again, let's blank out the numbers so that way we aren't being caught up with numbers. We're just thinking about the situation, okay? Okay, now let's reread it and think about it. At the end of the school year, all the math teachers brought in a certain amount of donuts for their classes. If Miss Jackson brought in a certain amount of donuts for her number of math classes, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? Okay, let's think about this. So we have all the math teachers in the school, a school, not in the world, just the math teachers in a school. They got together and said, we're going to bring in donuts for our kids because it's the end of the school year and we just want to have fun and eat some snacks. Okay. Miss Jackson apparently is also a math teacher, Latrell Jackson. And I actually did this too for my 11th grade class. And Miss Jackson brought in some of the donuts that all the teachers brought in. So there's all the math teachers brought in an amount of donuts together, and Miss Jackson brought in a portion of those donuts. Okay, for her, she had a few different math classes. How many donuts did the other teachers bring in? So if we know how many donuts Miss Jackson brought in, and we know how many donuts all the teachers brought in, all the math teachers brought in, then we'll be able to figure out how many donuts the other teachers brought in. Okay, that's just a little thought. Now we are on the rewrite step, okay? So we want to, 1, rewrite in our own words, 2, draw a picture or diagram, and 3, replace the numbers, okay? By the way, I kind of redid the order of things. So blanking out usually would be in this step, but I actually put it in the first step because it just seemed more logical to blank out the numbers earlier in the reading comprehension process so that we can focus on the situation, okay? So if you see in previous videos where blank out the numbers was here, I've changed it. And that is reflected in the blog post that I wrote on my website, Knowledge Over Grades. Okay, so we're going to write the question in our own words. So to the left, I have the original question. And to the right, I have an example of what you could write in your own words. So what I'm going to do here is rewrite the question in my own words, but you may not say it that way. So I want you to rewrite the question in your own words and put it in the comments below so I can see how you would say this problem. Okay, so let's get started. All right. For the first part, so first of all, I broke up the question so that it's not all together. I broke it up so that we can think about one part and then think about the next part. Okay. So the first part, I actually added a piece. Let me read it again. It says, at the end of the school year, all the math teachers brought in a total of a certain amount of donuts for their classes. Okay. So I put a total up because it helps us to be more specific as to who brought in what and the fact that everybody's donuts is being combined into this one number. Okay. All right. And then the second part, it says if Miss Jackson brought a certain amount of donuts for her math classes, so they are underlined for her math classes because I actually extracted the three. We don't need to know that she brought in donuts for three math classes. That's kind of a distraction number because she gave donuts to everybody, to all of her classes. So it doesn't matter that she has three, they all got a donut no matter which class they were in, you know? So I extracted that. I extracted the word three from math classes. How many donuts did the other teachers bring in as a whole? Okay. So this could get a little confusing because it says originally, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? You may think, you may be trying to figure out how many donuts did each individual teacher bring in besides Miss Jackson. But no, we just want to know as a whole, when we take out Miss Jackson's donuts, how many is left that the other teachers brought in? So as a whole helps us to remember that we're thinking about the group of teachers that does not include Miss Jackson. Okay. So these are little things you can do to help specify and narrow down what is being explained and what the thought is in the word problem. Sometimes you do have to make judgment calls for yourself. You can be like, this is what it seemed like the question was saying. Okay. And then you can ask for help or ask another person's opinion to, see if the way you read it is incorrect or way you understood is incorrect so that you can correctly solve the problem. Because sometimes word problems are a little vague. I will say that. Okay, so we have the word problem in our own words. Or in my own words. You can put the word problem in your own words and in the comments. And now we're going to draw a diagram or picture to just basically show what the situation is talking about. Okay, once again, at the end of the school year, all the math teachers brought in a total of a certain amount of donuts for their classes. Okay, so I'm just going to draw this to represent all the donuts that all the teachers brought in. Number of donuts from all teachers. Okay, let's draw a donut. All right, next part says if Miss Jackson brought in a certain amount of donuts for her math classes, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? Okay, so first of all, if Miss Jackson brought in a certain amount of donuts for her math classes, so that means that out of the total amount of donuts that all the teachers brought in, Miss Jackson was one of those teachers. We want to know how many donuts she brought in. So let's put another tape above this, and we're not going to stretch it out because Miss Jackson didn't bring in all the donuts. Miss Jackson brought in some of the donuts, okay? So this is number of donuts from Miss Jackson. okay? So we can clearly see that Miss Jackson only brought in some of the donuts that all the teachers brought in. She didn't bring in all the donuts, okay? So the last part says, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? Well, that would be that portion that Miss Jackson does not cover. That would be this space right here, okay? So we can call that number of donuts from other teachers, okay? So this gives us a clue as to what we want to be doing, but let's keep moving and see what else we can deduce or find out about this situation. Okay, so for number 4, we're going to replace the numbers, and that gives us a little bit more information. Um, Says at the end of the school year, all the math teachers brought in a total of 312 donuts for their classes. If Miss Jackson brought in 96 donuts for her math classes, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? All right, so now we got the numbers and we can start working with quantity. Step 2 in the 3-step word problem solving process is going on a scavenger hunt for 4 items. And those 4 items are 1, numbers, 2, unknowns or variables, 3, hidden operations, and 4, separate steps. Okay, so number 1 is numbers, and our numbers stand out pretty clearly. 312 donuts that all the teachers brought in, and then 96 donuts that only Miss Jackson brought in. Then our unknowns. I highlighted this part, this section down at the bottom, where it says, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? Do we know that? No. That's why I highlighted it, because that's what we want to find out. That is an unknown. Okay, so our hunt number 3 is operations. And usually our operations are hidden inside words, and we gotta decode it and figure out what operation it's trying to tell us. So I highlighted in green this section down here around the unknown portion where it says, if Miss Jackson brought 96 donuts for her math classes, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? So that whole question is an operation. It tells us what operation we need to use. And how do we know what operation it's telling us to use? Let's think about it a little bit more. If Miss Jackson brought in 96 donuts for her math classes, now Miss Jackson is one of the teachers that brought in a total of 312, right? How many donuts did the other teachers bring in? Well, like in our diagram, we saw that all the teachers brought in a certain amount of donuts, and then Miss Jackson only brought in a smaller amount of that total amount, okay? So Miss Jackson is actually being taken out of that total amount right now, and then the what's left is the rest of the math teachers. So let's think about those words we just used. Taken out, what's left. That sounds like subtraction to me. And I think that's what the operation is that's hidden in this sentence. Okay, so separate steps means when we have more than one step to take in order to solve the question, to solve the word problem. However, in this step, we just explained how we only have one step, and that's subtraction, and then we get the answer. So in this problem, we don't have any separate steps. We just have one step and we're done, okay? That's why nothing is highlighted in red. All right, are you ready to solve? Put ready in the comments if you're ready to solve, and let's go. But pause here if you want to solve the problem on your own. Now, I do have a specific way I'm going to do the subtraction. You can check out my last video I did on subtracting multi-digit numbers by place value without regrouping and without borrowing. You can do it totally without regrouping and without borrowing big numbers. So you might want to stick around and see how I do the subtraction, or you can watch that previous video and do the subtraction on your own and then come back to see if we got the same answer. So let's get started. Okay, so we're on step 3, solve with strategy and purpose. So these are the things that we're going to make sure we do. Outline a strategy. 2, label values and numbers. 3, double check the question, make sure we answer the whole thing. And number 4, circle or box our answer. Okay, so here's the question. We're going to outline a strategy, and it's basically the picture that we drew in the draw a picture step. So here's the picture just as a reminder, and we see that we have a total amount of donuts, Miss Jackson's donuts out of that total, and then what's left is what the answer is basically. That is how many donuts the other teachers brought in, okay? So we're going to be doing subtraction. What are we subtracting? The big number of donuts minus Miss Jackson's donuts will give us the rest of the donuts, what's left, okay? So we said we have the total amount of donuts minus Miss Jackson's donuts, and that'll give us what the other teachers brought in. Okay, let's put in our numbers. So we said the total is 312, and we're taking away Miss Jackson's, and that's going to give us what's left. Okay, now the way I like to do my subtraction is what I call the backwards place value method. Okay, backwards place value method. So what that means is I am, instead of going from right to left, I'm going from left to right. And with these, I want to expand my numbers out of the combined number that they are and expand them into their place values. So what I mean by that is we're looking at the number 312. Well, the place values that are being represented are the hundreds place, the tens place, and the ones place. So I'm going to write them in those places. So 312, let's start with 300. Okay, so 300 plus 10 plus 2. If we add all those together, we have 312. Okay, now we have 96. What we want to do though is we want to line up our place values by number as well. So with 96, we don't see a hundreds place, so we're going to put 0, 100. Then we have a number in the tens place, and that is 90. And then our number in the ones place is 6. Okay, so the next step is to write subtraction between all of these, because what we're going to be doing is subtracting from left to right, left to right, left to right. We're going to be transforming this into a vertical subtraction problem. We're going to be starting from the top left corner, going right, and then going to the next line, just like we're reading, okay? So let's try that here. So we're starting with 300, and then we're subtracting 0, 100 from it. So we can write that here. Then we're going to 10, because that we're going back to the left. 10 minus 90 minus 2 minus 6, okay? So that's our subtraction right there. Okay, so like I said, we're subtracting from left to right. We're starting with the highest place value, subtracting down, writing that number under. So let's do it. 300 minus 0, 100 is still 300, right? Okay. Now we're going to the next place value, which is the tens place. We got 10 minus 90. 10 minus 90, if you look at the number line, we do 1 minus 9. That's going to give us negative 8. So 10 minus 90 is negative 80. Okay. Now, I just want to let you know that I have a course that helps us to understand integers. So if you need more help with dealing with negative numbers, multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting, uh, negative and positive together, you should enroll in my course, which I will link in the description of this video, because it helps you with integers as well as 6 other really important concepts that you should be able to understand if you want to do well in algebra. Okay, this is prerequisites for algebra. Okay, so next one is 2 minus 6. That's the ones place. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Okay, all right. Now at this step, you think we're about to do subtraction again. Nope, we're about to add. Okay, so we're adding all of these numbers together. Now, like I explained in my last video on subtraction, these numbers are in their truest form. The positives are positive and the negatives are negative. Let's say they are deciding whether they want to hang out. 380 and 40 and 4 are deciding whether they want to hang out tonight. 300 is down. He is hanging out tonight. 80 deciding not to. 4 is also deciding not to. That's their negative disposition, okay? They're deciding to not hang out with 300. So 300 has to do without 80 and 4, okay? So if we think about it that way, we know that 300 is going to be doing without 80, so that means we're subtracting. Even though it says add, we're combining these numbers together in their dispositions, and we're saying 300 is doing without 80, so we're subtracting 80 from 300. 300 minus 80, that is 220, okay? Then we're going to subtract 4 because 4 is negative 2. And 220 minus 4 is 216. Okay, use your calculator to check and see if this is right. I know this is a different way of doing subtraction, but I feel like it is more efficient and convenient, especially if you know your negatives and you don't have to do so much work. Now, I do also show you a way you can do it where it's not expanded and you don't write the numbers in their place value like it is now. And you can watch my video on subtraction on how I do that. Let's do number 2 in our solve with strategy and purpose step, which is label our numbers. So what does this number mean again? Might have to go back to the question and remind ourselves what it means, which we'll be doing number 3, which says double check the question. It says, at the end of the school year, all the math teachers brought in a total of 312 donuts for their classes. If Miss Jackson brought in 96 donuts for her math classes, how many donuts did the other teachers bring in? Okay, so what we did is we took the total amount of donuts and subtracted Miss Jackson's donuts, 96, from 312, and we got 216. So that's what is left, right? Meaning that's how many donuts the other teachers brought in. So let's label this and say 216 donuts brought in. I feel like I'm gonna run out of space. From the other teachers. Okay. And we labeled, we double checked, circle. We're done. So if you are like handing this in, if this is your homework and this is your scrap paper that you did this problem on, make sure you write the answer on your actual homework or your assignment or type it into the computer. Um, Whatever you need to do to make sure you get credit for this. But you labeling this helps you to see that that is the answer and you know why it's the answer based on the work that you did and the fact that you rechecked the question to make sure you answered the question properly. All right, so that is the end of today's Word Problem Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and I invite you to join the KOG Math Success Library. It's a free library. You can join and get so many different resources for school, for math, and different things like that. in the library, I have 3 question practice sheets where you can practice the methods that I'm teaching in my YouTube videos. And the 2 that I have available now are the one for addition and the one for subtraction. So go ahead and make your account so that you can get those sheets, download them for free. And I also have the Subtraction Skill Builder. And the Skill Builder is a more in-depth type of practice where I have more questions, I have 2 word problems, I have a quiz where you can enter some of the questions that you answered on the worksheets into the quiz and actually get a score to see if you got it right or wrong. You can take it however many times you need to for that practice. And I have you practicing different concepts related to the main concept. So as you see, I have place value and helping you to expand your numbers so that you are able to write them correctly when you're doing your subtraction by place value. Okay. So I hope that you're able to take advantage of all the resources I have for you for free in the KOG Math Success Library. Remember, the link for that is in the description of this video. You can go ahead and create your free account and also take advantage of the other videos I have created on this channel, other Word Problem Wednesdays, and also skill and lesson videos to help you to build and boost your understanding and your math grades. So go ahead, take a look at my other videos, and I'll see you in my next one.